The helicopter hadn't even touched the roof yet, and someone inside the hospital had already made their move. Aaron Callahan didn't look up when the overhead lights flickered for half a second. Most people didn't notice things like that. They were too busy, too tired, or too confident. Nothing ever really went wrong inside a hospital like Stonebridge Regional. Aaron noticed. She always noticed. She just didn't say much about it anymore. Room 12 needed a dressing change. The patient in 9 was asking for ice chips again, even though he'd been told twice he wasn't supposed to have any. The nurse at the station was scrolling through her phone while pretending to chart. Just another Tuesday. Aaron moved through it quietly, efficient without being showy. No wasted motion. No unnecessary conversation. She checked vitals, adjusted an IV rate by a fraction, and caught a lab value that hadn't been flagged yet. She wrote it down, passed it to the resident, and didn't wait for credit. That was her thing. Do the job right, then move on. Callahan. She didn't turn right away. She finished taping the dressing, first smoothed the edges, made sure it would hold. Then she stood and faced the doorway. Dr. Victor Langford was already halfway inside, holding his tablet like it was more important than anything happening in the room. You routed medication through the west corridor again, he said, not looking at her. The east hallway was blocked. Maintenance. That's not your call. He tapped something on his screen. There's a protocol for a reason. Aaron nodded once. Understood. He finally looked up just long enough to confirm she wasn't going to argue. Good. Stick to your role. He left before she could answer, which worked out fine because she wasn't planning to. Out in the hallway, 2 orderlies pushed a cart past the nurse's station. One of them held the door open with his foot. A third person slipped through behind them without badge scanning. Aaron saw it. No one else did. Or maybe they did, and just didn't care. She walked over, paused at the badge reader, and watched the door close. The light blinked green, then settled back to idle. Normal behavior. No alert. No log anyone would check. Problem, another nurse asked, not really looking at her. No, Aaron said. Just making sure it shut. The nurse shrugged and went back to her chart. Aaron stood there 1 second longer than necessary, then turned away. That was the thing about places like this. Nothing looked wrong if you didn't know what wrong felt like. By 10:30 a.m., the hospital had picked up its usual rhythm. Phones ringing, monitors beeping, doctors moving fast enough to look busy, not fast enough to make mistakes obvious. The administration side of the building was already setting up for the visit scheduled later that week. High level. Department of Defense. Langford had been talking about it for days. Federal coordination, he said during the morning briefing. Security compliance. Visibility. He liked that word. Visibility. Aaron stood in the back, arms relaxed at her sides, listening without really needing to. She already knew what mattered. Not the speeches, not the suits, the gaps. There were always gaps. After the meeting, she walked the long way back to the floor, past the supply corridor, past the loading dock access. The door there was closed, but the latch didn't sit right. It was off by maybe a millimeter. You wouldn't see it unless you were looking for it. Aaron stopped, pressed lightly against the handle. It opened half an inch, then caught. Not locked. She closed it again slower this time until it clicked into place. No alarm, no warning, just a door that should have been secure and wasn't. "Maintenance issue?" a voice asked behind her. Erin turned. A man in dark scrubs, late 30s, unfamiliar face. Not unusual in a hospital this size. People rotated all the time. "Probably," she said. He nodded like that was enough and kept walking. Erin watched him go for a second. Not because he looked suspicious, because he didn't look like anything at all. That bothered her more. Back on the floor, Room 9's patient was still asking for ice chips. "You're persistent," Erin said, checking his chart. "I like ice," he said. "What can I tell you?" "You can tell me you'll follow instructions." He gave her a look that said he wouldn't, but he appreciated the effort. Erin almost smiled. Almost. She adjusted his monitor, made a small correction to the IV line, and moved on. Room 12. Room 14. Chart, check, move. Simple, predictable. Except it wasn't. At 12:17 p.m., a lab result came back slightly off. Not enough to trigger an alert. Not enough for most people to care. Erin stared at it for a second longer than most people would. Potassium. Borderline. She checked the previous value, then the medication schedule. Everything looked correct. On paper. She printed the result anyway and slipped it into the chart. "Hey," the nurse from earlier called out. "You coming to lunch?" "In a minute." The nurse shrugged and disappeared down the hall. Erin stayed where she was looking at the numbers again. Nothing clearly wrong, but something didn't line up. She couldn't explain it. Not yet. That happens sometimes. A feeling before the reason. She folded the paper, tucked it into the chart, and finally stepped away. If you've ever seen something small that didn't make sense, drop a comment below. I read those. And if you like stories where the quiet ones turn out to know more than everyone else, go ahead and subscribe. By 1 p.m., the hospital had settled into that early afternoon lull. Not calm, just less loud. Erin took the stairs instead of the elevator. 3 flights up, then back down another corridor. She did that sometimes. Not because she needed to, because it gave her a different view of the building. Different angles. Different patterns. On the second-floor landing, she paused. The stairwell door was propped open with a small rubber stop. That wasn't supposed to happen. Fire code allowed doors to unlock during alarms, not sit open during normal operations. Erin nudged the stop away with her foot. The door swung shut. Again, no alarm. She stood there, hand on the rail, thinking. One door not secured. One access point used without a badge. One lab value that didn't quite fit. Individually, nothing. Together, not nothing. She pushed the thought aside and kept moving. Back on her floor, the rhythm picked up again. New admissions, discharges, phones ringing, Langford's voice somewhere in the distance talking about compliance. Erin stepped into the corridor, adjusted her gloves, and headed toward the next room. From the outside, everything looked exactly the way it was supposed to. Inside, something had already shifted. Erin slowed just slightly as she reached for the next patient's chart, her hand hovering a second longer than it needed to. Nothing had changed. That was the problem. Everything looked normal. Too normal. The kind of normal that only exists when small things are slipping through without being noticed. She flipped the chart open, scanned the vitals, and stepped into room 16. Afternoon, she said. The patient mid-50s post-op gave her a tired nod. You're the one who actually listens, right? That depends, Aaron said. Are you planning to follow instructions today? He gave a weak laugh. No promises. Fair enough. She checked his IV, adjusted the flow rate by a small margin, and verified the medication order against the chart. Everything matched. It always did. On paper, this place ran like a machine. Machines didn't make mistakes. People did. Aaron finished up, stepped back into the hallway, and glanced toward the nurses' station. Same faces, same movements, same low-level chaos pretending to be control. A tech rolled past with a supply cart. Different tech. Or maybe not. Aaron didn't recognize him, which didn't mean much. Large hospital, rotating staff, contractors. Still. The cart slowed near the junction just for a second. Not enough to draw attention. Just enough to notice if you were already paying attention. He adjusted something on the top shelf, then kept moving. Aaron watched the cart disappear around the corner. Hey, one of the nurses called out. You spacing out on us? Aaron blinked once. Just thinking. Careful. That's dangerous around here. Aaron gave a faint, almost smile and turned back to her station. She logged into the system, pulled up the medication records for the floor, and scrolled through the recent entries. Everything lined up. Timestamps, dosages, sign-offs, clean, too clean. No corrections, no overrides, no hesitation marks. Real charts always had friction. Someone second-guessing. Someone fixing a small error. Someone typing too fast and backtracking. This was smooth. She leaned back slightly, eyes scanning the screen. You looking for something? Another nurse asked. Just checking consistency. That's Langford's job. Aaron didn't respond to that. Langford's job was to talk about consistency, not notice when it stopped being real. At 2:05 p.m., a call came in from admissions. New transfer, cardiac observation. Aaron took the intake without hesitation. Send him up. She printed the preliminary file and walked toward the intake room. The doors opened a minute later, and two paramedics wheeled the patient in. Male, early 60s, alert but pale. Name, Aaron asked. Leonard Briggs, one of the paramedics said. Chest discomfort. Started about 4 hours ago. Vitals stable. No acute distress. Aaron nodded and stepped in closer. Mr. Briggs, I'm Aaron. I'm going to get you set up. He looked at her eyes, sharp despite the fatigue. I've had worse days. I'll try not to make this one worse. She worked quickly. Leads placed. Monitor connected. Blood draw prepped. No wasted movement. Briggs watched her hands. You've done this before, he said. A few times. Not like the others. Aaron didn't answer that. She focused on the screen as the first readings came through. Sinus rhythm. No obvious ST elevation. Vitals stable. Everything looked fine. She didn't trust it. Pain level, she asked. 4. What's a 10? He gave her a look. Let's not get into that. Fair enough. She entered the data, flagged the initial labs, and set the system to repeat. As she stepped back, she glanced at the chart again. No red flags. no alarms. Just that same quiet misalignment she couldn't quite name. Outside the room, Langford appeared like he'd been waiting for an opportunity to be seen. "New admission," he asked. "Cardiac observation." He skimmed the file without really reading it. "Good. Make sure all documentation is clean. We've got federal eyes on this place in a few days. Documentation's always clean." He missed the tone. "Good," he said, already turning away. "Let's keep it that way." Erin watched him go, then looked back at the chart in her hands. Clean. That word again. She stepped away from the room and headed down the corridor past the supply junction. The badge reader blinked idle. She stopped. Ran her badge. Green light. Normal access. She stepped through, then paused just inside the service corridor. Quiet. No one there. But the air felt used, like someone had been there recently. She walked the length of the corridor, eyes scanning without making it obvious. Shelving units, storage bins, nothing out of place, except one thing. A box on the lower shelf slightly misaligned. Not wrong, just not how it had been that morning. Erin crouched, slightly adjusted the box back into place and stood. Could have been anyone. Probably was. She didn't linger. Back on the main floor, the afternoon moved on. Charts updated. Labs processed. Calls answered. At 3:40 p.m., Briggs' first lab results came back. Erin pulled them up immediately. Troponin slightly elevated. Expected. Potassium again, borderline. Same pattern. She checked the medication orders. Correct. She checked the administration log. Also correct. Everything aligned. Except it didn't. She leaned forward, studying the numbers. "You're doing that thing again," the nurse said from earlier. "What thing?" The quiet stare, like something's wrong but you're not saying it. Erin straightened. "Just making sure it's not." The nurse shrugged. "If it was wrong, the system would flag it." Erin didn't respond. She printed the labs, folded the paper once, and slipped it into Briggs' chart. Then she looked down the hallway. Same lights, same movement, same noise. Nothing out of place. And still something didn't fit. She turned back to the station, logged out of the system, and reached for the next chart. Her hand steadied on the edge of the counter just for a moment. Then she kept working. Erin tapped the chart lightly against the counter before opening it again, like she expected the numbers to rearrange themselves if she gave them a second chance. They didn't. Room 12 was quiet when she stepped back in. Leonard Briggs was awake, staring at the monitor, like he didn't quite trust it. "Something wrong?" he asked without looking at her. "Not yet," Erin said. "Just checking a few things again." That's not a comforting answer. It's an honest one. She moved to the monitor, eyes scanning the rhythm strip. Still sinus. Still clean. Too clean. She glanced at the IV line, traced it back to the bag, then to the pump. Rate was correct. Medication matched the order. Everything exactly where it should be. "And still, you're thinking hard again," Briggs said. Erin looked at him. "Do you always watch people this closely? Used to be my job." "Doing what?" He paused. "Let's just say I noticed patterns." That tracked. Erin checked his pulse manually. Strong, regular, no immediate concern. But the lab said something else. "Any change in how you feel?" she asked. "Same as before." "Pressure. Not worse. Not better." Dizziness. Maybe a little. Shortness of breath, no. She nodded, filed it away, and stepped back. On paper, he was stable. In reality, something was drifting. She could feel it. Back at the station, Aaron pulled up his full medication history. Baseline prescriptions, recent adjustments, everything documented, everything approved. She scrolled slower this time. There, a small change. Not wrong, just subtle. A beta blocker adjustment, within acceptable range, signed off properly. Anyone else would have moved past it. Aaron didn't. She cross-checked the timing against the potassium levels. Not enough to prove anything, but enough to raise a question. "You still on Briggs?" the nurse asked. "Yeah. Cardio signed off already. Observation and repeat labs." "Okay." The nurse leaned against the counter. "You look like you're trying to solve a puzzle that isn't there." Erin kept her eyes on the screen. "Maybe. Or maybe you just don't trust anything that looks easy." That was closer to the truth. Erin logged the data, printed the updated chart, and stood. "I'll take another look," she said. "Of course you will." Back in the room, Briggs was sitting up slightly now. "That fast," he said. "Either I'm your favorite patient or something's off." Aaron didn't answer right away. She adjusted his bed, checked the leads again. "Have you had any recent medication changes before today?" she asked. "No. No new prescriptions. No dosage adjustments. Not that I'm aware of." That mattered. She nodded once. "Any allergies?" "Nothing new." "Okay." She stepped back again, watching him for a second longer than necessary. Not for symptoms, for behavior. People with cardiac issues usually showed it in small ways. Restlessness, guarded breathing, subtle discomfort. Briggs wasn't doing any of that. He looked controlled, like someone managing something he understood better than he was letting on. "You said than he was letting on. You said you noticed patterns," Aaron said. He looked at her now. "I did." "What kind?" "The kind that don't show up in reports." That wasn't an answer, but it was enough. Aaron left the room without another word. In the hallway, she paused just briefly and looked down toward the supply corridor again. Same door. Closed. Aligned. Normal. She didn't go check it this time. Instead, she walked past it and took the longer route around. Different angle. Different view. At the far end of the corridor, she saw the same supply cart from earlier. Or one just like it. The same model, at least. Same shelving. Same layout. The tech pushing it wasn't the same guy. Or maybe it was. Hard to tell. That was the problem. Nothing stood out enough to be certain. He stopped near a patient room, checked a clipboard, then moved on. Routine. Everything about it was routine. Aaron kept walking. At the nurse's station, she picked up the phone. "Pharmacy," a voice answered. "This is Aaron on 3. I need to confirm a recent beta blocker adjustment for Leonard Briggs." "Hold on." She waited. Eyes scanning the floor. Movement, noise, normal? Too normal. "Okay," pharmacy came back. "Orders correct. Within range. Approved this morning." "Who approved it?" "System shows Dr. Patel." Aaron frowned slightly. "He's not on this floor today. Could've been remote." "Maybe." She hung up. "Remote approval. Possible. Also easy to hide behind." She pulled up the staff schedule. Dr. Patel was listed, but not physically present. Again, not wrong. Just convenient. Everything okay? The nurse asked. Yeah, you say that a lot. Erin didn't respond. She went back to the system this time, pulling access logs. Basic level. Nothing restricted. She wasn't looking for a breach. She was looking for timing. Who accessed what? When? The log showed activity. Normal activity. Consistent. Clean. No spikes. No anomalies. It looked exactly how it should look, which meant if something was wrong, it was happening inside the lines. That was harder to catch. She leaned back, slightly exhaling through her nose. You're doing it again, the nurse said. What? That thing where you go quiet and start seeing things the rest of us don't. Erin stood. Maybe I'm just paying attention. The nurse shook her head. To what Erin looked down the hallway again. At the movement, at the doors, at the people who all seemed exactly where they were supposed to be. That's what I'm trying to figure out. She picked up Briggs' chart again. Numbers still the same. Nothing had changed, and that was exactly why she couldn't ignore it. Erin shifted the chart slightly in her hands, not because it was heavy, but because something about holding it still felt wrong. She set it down, then picked it up again. Same numbers, same clean lines, same quiet problems sitting underneath all of it. She stepped back into room 12 without knocking this time. Briggs glanced over. You back again? Just making sure nothing changed. That's twice in 10 minutes. Lucky you. He studied her for a second. You don't check like the others. Erin adjusted the monitor leads. How do the others check? They look at the screen, nod, and leave. That sounds efficient. It also sounds like they're not really looking. That part landed. Erin didn't answer. She checked his IV site again, slower this time. No swelling. No redness. Flow steady. Everything right where it should be. Except the timing. She glanced at the medication pump again. The rate hadn't changed, but the last adjustment time. She leaned in slightly, 2 minutes earlier than scheduled. Not enough to trigger anything, not enough for anyone to question, but it was there. You okay? Briggs asked. Yeah. She stepped back, committing the detail to memory. 2 minutes early. Not a mistake someone new would make. That required access. Back at the station, she didn't sit. She stayed standing, scanning the floor again. People moved like they always did, but now she watched the timing. Who entered rooms? Who exited? How long they stayed? Patterns. That's where things broke down. At 4:05 p.m., the same unfamiliar nurse from earlier passed through the corridor again. Dark hair, correct scrubs, badge clipped properly, everything technically right, but she moved too fast. Not rushed. Precise. Like she already knew where she was going. Erin tracked her path without turning her head. Room 10. Pause. Room 11. No entry. Room 12. She stopped. Erin stepped forward before she could think about it. Hey. The nurse turned. Yeah. You assigned to 12? The nurse didn't hesitate. Covering for a break? Who's on break? A fraction of a pause. Jessica. Jessica was still at the station. Erin kept her expression neutral. Got it, she said. The nurse gave a short nod and stepped into room 12. Erin followed 2 seconds later. Briggs looked between them. Busy afternoon, The nurse moved toward the IV pump. Erin spoke first. "I've got this." The nurse paused just for a beat, then stepped back. "All yours." She left the room without another word. Erin waited until the door closed. Then she checked the pump again. Same rate, same numbers. But the tubing, she traced it again. Everything connected properly. Still, something felt handled, like someone had already been there. "You two don't seem to be on the same page," Briggs said. "Just making sure we are?" "You don't trust her." Erin didn't answer. She adjusted the IV slightly more out of habit than necessity. "Do you trust everyone here?" she asked. Briggs almost smiled. "No." "Good." She stepped back and checked his monitor again. Stable. Still stable. That was the problem. Back in the hallway, Erin didn't return to the station right away. She walked past it, toward the stairwell. The door was closed this time. No rubber stop. No visible issue. She opened it anyway. Inside, the air felt cooler. Empty. She stepped down one flight, then paused at the landing. Listened. Nothing. Just the low hum of the building. She went back up. On the second floor, the corridor looked identical. Same lights, same layout, different people. A man in maintenance coveralls pushed a cart past her. Logo on the side. Hospital standard. But the color, slightly off. Not enough for anyone to call it out. Enough for her to notice. He didn't look at her. Didn't slow down. Just kept moving. Erin watched him turn the corner. Then she walked back to the station. "Where'd you go?" the nurse asked. "Checking something." "Find anything?" Erin picked up her chart again. "Not yet." At 4:40 p.m., Briggs's repeat labs came back. Erin pulled them up immediately. Potassium slightly higher, still within range. Still not enough to trigger, but trending. She checked the medication log again. Same entries, same clean pattern. No corrections, no second checks. Too perfect. She printed the results and set them next to the previous ones. Side by side. Trend line. Slow. Controlled. Intentional. "You look like you just figured something out," the nurse said. "Maybe." "What?" Erin didn't look up. "If you wanted to change a patient's condition without making it obvious." The nurse leaned in. "Yeah. You wouldn't do anything big." "Okay. You'd do something small. Repeated. Inside acceptable limits." The nurse frowned. "That sounds like a lot of work." "It is. Why would anyone bother?" Erin finally looked up. "Because no one's looking for it." The nurse shook her head. "You watch too many crime shows." Erin almost smiled. "I don't watch TV." She gathered the charts, stacked them neatly, and turned toward the hallway again. Same movement, same noise, same normal. But now she could see the gaps. Not big enough to notice, just big enough to use. She stepped back into room 12. Briggs looked at her like he'd been expecting her. "Let me guess," he said. "Something still doesn't add up." Erin adjusted the monitor. "No." He raised an eyebrow. "It adds up perfectly," she said. "And that's the problem." Erin didn't move right away after saying it, just stood there with one hand resting lightly on the edge of the bed, watching the monitor like it might slip and tell the truth if she gave it enough time. Briggs let out a quiet breath. "I'm guessing that's not something you say unless you mean it." "It means I don't like what I'm seeing," Erin said. "That makes two of us." She checked his pulse again, slower this time, counting under her breath. Still steady. Still controlled. Any change, she asked. No. You feel worse? No. That's not good. He gave her a look. You've got a very specific definition of good. I do. She stepped back, eyes moving from the monitor to the IV pump, then back to his chart. Everything was holding. Too well. Back in the hallway, the noise picked up again. A patient transport rushed past. A doctor called out for labs. Phones rang in uneven rhythm. Normal hospital noise. Erin walked toward the nurse's station but didn't stop there. She kept going. Down the corridor. Past the supply junction. Again. This time she slowed as she approached. The badge reader blinked idle. She didn't use it. Instead, she watched. Two nurses approached from the opposite direction. One swiped her badge. The other slipped in behind her without scanning. No hesitation. No correction. No one said anything. The door closed. Green light. No log for the second person. Erin exhaled quietly. Not a flaw. A habit. And habits were easier to exploit than systems. She turned back. At the station, Langford was standing with two doctors speaking just loud enough to be heard. Everything is fully compliant, he said. We've had multiple internal reviews. There are no gaps in protocol. Erin didn't stop walking. She grabbed the next chart, flipped it open, and pretended to read while listening. One more walkthrough tomorrow, Langford continued. Then we're set. One of the doctors nodded. Federal team coming early. Possibly. Doesn't change anything. It should have. Erin closed the chart and set it down. Callahan, Langford said without looking at her. You're on extended observation for 12. Keep documentation tight. Always is. He gave a short nod like that was all he needed to hear. It wasn't. Erin stepped away again, this time toward the medication room. Inside the space was quiet. Shelves lined with labeled bins. Everything organized. Everything accounted for. She moved down the rows, slowly checking labels without touching anything. Then she stopped. One bin beta blockers. She pulled it forward slightly. Count looked correct. Packaging intact. Nothing missing. But the arrangement, she shifted one box back into alignment. Not wrong. Just not consistent. Someone had handled it recently. She pushed the bin back and stepped out. At 5:25 p.m., shift change started to bleed into the floor. New faces. New energy. Slight confusion as people handed off responsibilities. This was where mistakes happened. And where they could be hidden. Erin stood near the station watching the transitions. Who signed what? Who double-checked? Who didn't? The unfamiliar nurse from earlier was back. Different direction this time. Same pace. Same precision. She stopped at the station, glanced at a chart, then moved on without saying anything. Erin stepped forward. You covering nights too? The nurse looked at her. Just helping where needed. That's a long shift. I'm used to it. Erin nodded once. Badge check's been spotty today, she said casually. The nurse's expression didn't change. Busy floor. Yeah, a beat. Then the nurse walked away. Erin watched her go. No defensiveness, no explanation. Just smooth movement. That was worse. At 5:40 p.m., Briggs's monitor gave a soft alert. Nothing loud, nothing urgent, just enough to draw attention. Erin was already moving. Inside the room, she checked the screen. Heart rate slightly irregular. Not dangerous. Not yet. She checked the IV line again, then the pump. Rate unchanged. She frowned, feeling anything she asked. A little lightheaded. She nodded. Stay with me. She adjusted his position, raised the head of the bed slightly, and rechecked the monitor. The rhythm corrected itself. Back to stable. Too quickly. That didn't feel random, Briggs said. No, Erin said. It didn't. She checked the medication log again on the terminal inside the room. Last administration time. Right on schedule. But she knew what she'd seen earlier. 2 minutes early. Small, but enough. She stepped out of the room and scanned the hallway. The unfamiliar nurse was gone. The tech with the cart also gone. Everyone else exactly where they should be. Everything okay? The nurse at the station asked, for now. You look like you're waiting for something. Erin leaned against the counter slightly. I am. What? She looked down the hallway again. For it to happen again. The nurse shook her head. You're making this more complicated than it needs to be. Erin didn't respond. At 6:05 p.m., the system logged another medication adjustment. Erin saw it before anyone else did. Same category, same range, different timestamp. She pulled it up. Approved, documented, clean. She checked the approving physician. Remote access again. Convenient. She printed the record and folded it once. Then she looked at the clock. Shift change. More movement, more noise, more cover. She picked up Briggs' chart and headed back to his room. Inside, he looked up immediately. That look again, he said. Erin set the chart down. Which one? The one where you've already figured something out and you're deciding how much to say. She met his eyes. Enough to keep you stable. That's reassuring. It should be. She checked his vitals again, slower now, more deliberate. Every number mattered. Every second mattered. And somewhere on this floor, someone was counting on no one paying close enough attention to notice the difference. Erin adjusted the IV one more time, then stepped back. Everything looked right, and she trusted that less with every passing minute. Erin didn't leave the room this time, just stayed by the monitor, watching the rhythm settle back into something that looked acceptable on paper and wrong in her gut. Briggs shifted slightly. You're still here? Yeah. That usually means something. It means I don't like patterns I can't explain. He let that sit for a second. You ever consider telling someone higher up? Erin almost smiled. I already did. And he told me to stay in my lane. Briggs gave a quiet exhale. Sounds about right. She checked the IV pump again. Same rate, same numbers. But she didn't look at the screen this time. She looked at the tubing, followed it with her eyes from bag to line to port. Everything connected properly. No air, no obstruction, nothing visibly wrong. That was the point. If someone wanted to change an outcome without leaving a mark, this is exactly what it would look like. Small changes. Perfect documentation. No obvious mistakes. She stepped out of the room and walked straight to the station. No hesitation this time. She pulled up the medication logs again, but instead of reading them line by line, she compared them side by side. timestamps, dosages, intervals. Then she opened a blank note and started writing numbers manually. "Okay," the nurse said. "Now you're definitely doing something." Erin didn't look up. "Just checking timing." "You've been checking timing for an hour." "Then you know it matters." The nurse leaned over slightly. "You see something?" Erin stopped writing. "Yeah." "What?" She tapped the screen. "These adjustments. They're within range." "I know. So what's the issue?" Erin turned the screen slightly so the nurse could see. "They're consistent." "That's good, right?" "No," Erin said. "It's perfect." The nurse frowned. "I don't follow." "In a real shift, nothing's perfect," Erin said. "Someone's late. Someone double checks. Someone corrects something small." She pointed to the logs. "This is clean. No friction. No hesitation." The nurse shrugged. "Maybe everyone's just on their game." Erin leaned back slightly. "Or someone's controlling it." The nurse blinked. "That's a big leap." Erin didn't argue. She didn't need to. She pushed away from the station and walked back toward the medication room. Inside, the shelves looked exactly the same as before. Organized, accounted for, controlled. She went straight to the beta blocker bin again. This time she counted. One by one. Numbers matched. Then she checked the adjacent bin. Potassium. Also matched. No missing units. No extra. Nothing obvious. She stepped back, thinking. If the supply wasn't changing, the manipulation wasn't happening here. It was happening in timing. Or access. She turned and left the room. In the hallway, movement had picked up again. Night shift settling in. Different rhythm. Different people. Same blind spots. At 6:45 p.m., Erin saw Hale for the first time. He wasn't announced. Didn't check in. Just stood near the far end of the corridor like he belonged there without needing permission. Dark jacket. No visible badge. Watching without making it obvious. Erin recognized the posture before she recognized anything else. Not hospital. Not admin. Field. She walked toward him without changing her pace. "You're not staff," she said quietly. He didn't look surprised. "No. Visitor badge. Not wearing one." "That's a problem. Only if someone notices." Erin stopped about 6 feet away. "I noticed." He gave a small nod. Good. That was all the confirmation she needed. "You're early," she said. "We moved up the timeline." "Why?" He glanced down the hallway. "Because you were right." Erin didn't react outwardly. "What do you know?" "Enough to be concerned," he said. "Not enough to stop it yet." She crossed her arms lightly. "They're adjusting medication." He looked at her. "Explain." "Small changes," she said. "Within range. Clean logs. No errors. Outcome. Slow destabilization." He nodded once. "That tracks." "Then why isn't anyone stopping it?" He gave her a look. "Because it doesn't look like anything." That was the problem. Erin glanced toward room 12. "They've already started." Hale followed her line of sight. "Target confirmed." "Yes." "Condition stable," Erin said. "But trending." Hale exhaled slowly. "We're dealing with internal access," he said. "No system breach. No forced entry." "I know." "Credential misuse. Timing exploitation." "Yeah." He studied her for a second. "You've seen this before." Aaron didn't answer. She didn't need to. He shifted slightly, lowering his voice. "We're watching for external movement," he said. "But this," he gestured toward the floor, "this is inside." Aaron nodded. "Then you're looking in the wrong direction." Hale's expression didn't change, but something in his posture did. "Where would you look?" Aaron glanced back at the station, at the staff, at the movement, at behavior, she said. "Not systems." He followed her gaze. "Who stands out?" "Everyone looks normal," Aaron said. "That's the problem." Hale nodded once. "Then we narrow it down." "How?" He met her eyes. "By watching what doesn't change when everything else does." Aaron looked back down the corridor. Same lights, same noise, same controlled chaos. But now she wasn't just seeing gaps. She was seeing intent, and somewhere in that movement, someone was counting on the fact that no one would connect the dots. Aaron stepped past Hale without another word and headed back toward room 12. This time she wasn't just checking. She was tracking. Aaron pushed the door open with her shoulder eyes already on the monitor before it even came fully into view. Same rhythm, same numbers, still stable. She didn't relax. She moved straight to the IV pump again, but this time she didn't touch it right away. She stood still and watched. 30 seconds. 40. Nothing changed. Briggson's. 40. Nothing changed. Briggs looked over at her. "You're timing it now." "Yeah." "Should I be worried?" "You should stay exactly where you are." "That's not a no." "It's not a yes either." She leaned in, checked the tubing again, then stepped back. "Any dizziness?" she asked. "A little earlier." "Not now. Chest pressure." "Still there?" "Same as before." She nodded once. "Consistent symptoms." "Controlled drift." "Not random." She stepped out of the room and closed the door halfway, leaving it just open enough to hear if anything changed. In the hallway, she didn't go back to the station. She stayed near the junction, watching. People moved through in waves. Shift overlap. Orders handed off. Charts updated. It was the busiest window of the day, and the easiest time to hide something. Aaron focused on timing again, not what people were doing, when they were doing it. A nurse entered room 10 at 7:02, left at 7:05. Another entered room 11 at 7:03, left at 7:06. Normal overlap. Normal movement. Then room 12. At 7:04, someone approached. The unfamiliar nurse. Same one, same pace, same precision. She reached for the handle. Aaron stepped forward. "Already checked," Aaron said. The nurse paused, hands still near the door. "I was told to follow up." "By who?" "A beat." "Station." Aaron nodded slightly. "I'm on it," she said. "You're good." The nurse held her gaze for a second longer than necessary, then lowered her hand. "All right." She turned and walked away. Aaron didn't follow her. She watched her reflection in the glass panel instead. No hesitation, no frustration, just adjustment. That was worse. Back at the station, Hale was still there, but now he was pretending to be busy flipping through a chart he didn't need. Aaron walked past him without stopping. "Same one?" he asked quietly. "Yeah." "Pattern?" Aaron leaned against the counter, eyes still on the floor. She's not guessing, Aaron said. She's timing entries. Hale nodded. Based on what? Medication windows? Smart. Yeah. Aaron picked up a blank chart and pretended to review it. They're not changing the meds themselves, she said. They're adjusting when they hit the system. Hale shifted slightly. So the logs look clean. Exactly. And the outcome still changes. Aaron nodded once. That's the idea. Hale exhaled through his nose. Then we're looking at someone with access and discipline. Not new, Aaron said. Not random. Internal. Yeah. A nurse walked past them, barely noticing the conversation. Hale lowered his voice further. We've got eyes on external movement, he said. Nothing yet. You won't see this from outside. He didn't argue. What do you need? Aaron glanced back toward room 12. Time, she said. You don't have much of that. I don't need much. She pushed off the counter and walked back toward the room. Inside, Briggs looked at her like he'd been counting seconds. You stopped someone, he said. Aaron adjusted the monitor slightly. Just keeping things consistent. That didn't look like consistency. She checked his pulse again. Still steady. Still controlled. You said you used to notice patterns, she said. I did. What do you see now? He thought about it. People moving like they know something I don't. That's accurate. And you're one of them. Aaron didn't answer. She stepped back and checked the chart again. Then she did something different. She wrote down the exact time. Not the system time. Her time. 7:08. She stood there watching. At 7:09, nothing changed. At 7:10, the monitor flickered slightly. Not an alert, just a shift. Heart rate dipped, then corrected. Small, controlled. Briggs felt it. Okay, he said. That's new. Aaron was already moving. She checked the IV, the pump, the line, everything unchanged. On the surface. She looked at her watch again. 7:10, 2-minute interval, same pattern as before. She exhaled slowly. They're pacing it, she said. Briggs looked at her. That sounds deliberate. It is. She stepped out into the hallway again. This time faster. Hale saw it immediately. What? 2-minute intervals, Aaron said. Minor shifts, self-correcting. Hale nodded. Hard to flag. Exactly. Harder to prove. Not if I can catch it live. Hale studied her. You planning to sit in that room all night? Aaron shook her head. No. Then what? She looked down the corridor again. At the movement, at the timing, at the nurse who had already adjusted her behavior once. I'm going to make them adjust again, Aaron said. Hale's expression didn't change, but his focus sharpened. How? Aaron picked up a chart from the station and flipped it open. By breaking their pattern. She turned back toward room 12. This time she didn't slow down. Aaron didn't slow down as she pushed back into the room, already reaching for the IV pump, before the door finished swinging open. Briggs looked up. You've got that look again. Stay still, she said. She adjusted the pump manually, not changing the dosage, just shifting the timing by 30 seconds. Not enough to alter treatment. Enough to disrupt a pattern. She stepped back and checked her watch. 7:12. Why does it feel like you're setting a trap? Briggs asked. Because I am. For who? Erin didn't answer. She moved to the monitor and watched. 7:13. Nothing. 7:14. Still stable. She kept her eyes on the screen, not blinking, not shifting. Then 7:15. The rhythm dipped again. But not the same way. Not clean, not controlled. It corrected slower. Messier. Briggs felt it immediately. That's different. Yeah, Erin said quietly. She checked the IV again. Same rate, same numbers. But the response, off. She stepped out into the hallway. Hale was already watching her. That did something, he said. They adjusted, Erin replied. They weren't expecting the timing shift. Hale nodded once, which means they're watching. Yeah. From where? Erin scanned the corridor. Not sure yet. At the far end of the hall, the unfamiliar nurse appeared again. Same pace, same controlled movement. But this time, she hesitated. Just for a second. Then continued walking. Erin saw it. Hale saw Erin see it. That's her, Hale said. Yeah. The nurse didn't approach room 12 this time. She passed it, kept walking, adjusted. That confirmed it. She knows, Erin said. Of course she does, Hale replied. Erin crossed her arms lightly. She's not guessing anymore. No, Hale said. Now she's reacting. That made her more dangerous. At 7:18, the overhead noise shifted. Not louder. Different. A low vibration through the structure. Subtle. Easy to miss. Unless you knew what it was. Erin looked up slightly. Hale didn't. He already knew. Early, Erin said. Yeah. The sound grew. Rotors. Not one. Two. Blackhawks. Approaching fast. The hallway didn't react right away. A few heads turned. A few people paused. Most ignored it. Hospitals had noise. This was just another kind. Except it wasn't. At 7:20, the first helicopter touched down. The vibration rolled through the building. This time people noticed. Conversations paused. Movement slowed. The second helicopter followed seconds later. Hale stepped away from the wall. They moved it up, he said. How far? 48 hours. Erin nodded once. That tracks. The plan wasn't holding, so they compressed it, which meant whoever was inside would adjust too. That made everything faster and more unstable. At the far end of the corridor, the unfamiliar nurse stopped again. This time she didn't pretend to check a chart. She just stood there, watching. Erin met her gaze. No reaction, no panic, just recognition. Then the nurse turned and walked the other direction. Gone. She's repositioning, Erin said. Yeah, Hale replied. And now she's on a clock. At 7:22, the main entrance doors opened. You couldn't see it from the floor, but you could feel it. The shift. More movement. More presence. More control. The building changed. Not visibly, but structurally. Erin stepped back toward the station. Staff were starting to notice now. What's going on? One nurse asked. Nothing you need to worry about, Hale said calmly. That didn't help. Langford appeared seconds later, moving fast enough to look important. What is this? He demanded. Why are there helicopters on my roof? Hale didn't turn. Because your building is now part of a live operation. Langford blinked. Excuse me? Erin didn't move. She watched the hallway, watched the doors, watched the timing. Who authorized this? Langford pressed. Hale finally looked at him. We don't have time for that conversation. You don't have the authority. Hale cut him off. Actually, we do. Langford opened his mouth to respond. Didn't. Because at that moment, 6 operators in tactical gear stepped onto the floor. Fast. Controlled. They didn't look at Langford, didn't look at the staff. They scanned. Corridors, corners, people. One of them stopped, looked directly at Erin. Recognition. Immediate. He stepped forward. Callahan. The name cut through the hallway. Everything paused. Langford turned confused. How do you know the president's physician arrives in under 2 hours? The operator said. We have a compromised environment. Erin didn't react. Status? She asked. Hale stepped in beside her. Internal access confirmed. Medication. Manipulation in progress. The operator nodded once. Then we need a commanding officer on this floor. Langford stepped forward. I'm the chief of staff. No, the operator said without even looking at him. His eyes stayed on Erin. We need someone who understands both the patient and the threat. Silence. Real silence this time. Every eye in the hallway shifted. From Langford to Erin. The nurse who didn't talk much. The one who stayed out of the way. The one no one paid attention to. Erin stood still for half a second. Then she stepped forward. Brief me, she said. No hesitation. No explanation. Just movement. Hale watched her. Langford didn't say anything. Because for the first time since this started, he realized he wasn't in charge of anything that mattered. The operator leaned in, slightly lowering his voice. We've got at least 1 confirmed internal asset. Possibly more. Target high-level DOD. Already inside your unit. Erin nodded. I know. The operator studied her for a second, then continued. We don't have full control of your access points. Someone's been building credential patterns. I've seen it. Good. He stepped back slightly. Then you're in. No badge. No formal assignment. Just acknowledgement. That was enough. Erin turned back toward the hallway. Same floor. Same lights. Same people. But nothing about it felt the same anymore. Now she wasn't just watching the pattern. She was inside it. Erin adjusted the lanyard at her neck, without looking down, eyes fixed on the corridor, as the flow of movement shifted around her. Different now. Not louder, sharper. People moved with purpose instead of routine. That changed everything. Positions are set, Hale said quietly beside her. We've got coverage on both ends. Erin nodded once. Don't overcorrect, she said. If they feel pressure, they'll rush and make mistakes. That's the only way this shows. Hale didn't argue. At the far end of the hallway, one of the operators repositioned, stepping just out of sight without making it obvious. Controlled, contained, but not invisible. Erin turned toward room 12. Keep it normal, she said. No sudden lockdowns. We're past normal, Hale replied. Not for them, Erin said. They still think they're ahead. That mattered. She stepped into the room. Briggs looked at her immediately. You've got company now, he said. Yeah, that bad. It depends how you define bad. She checked the monitor again. Still stable. Still trending just under the threshold. They're still trying, she said. Briggs studied her. And you're letting them. For now. She checked the IV pump again, then deliberately stepped away from it. No adjustments. No interference. She needed to see it happen clean. Outside the room, the hallway held steady. Inside, the clock mattered. Erin glanced at her watch. 13:07. She stood still, waiting. Briggs watched her. You're timing it again. Yeah. Feels like we're part of something bigger than a hospital visit. You are. He exhaled slowly. Good to know. 13:08. Nothing. 13:09. The monitor dipped. Not dramatically. Just enough. Briggs felt it. Okay, he said. There it is. Erin moved instantly. Checked the line, the pump, the tubing, everything unchanged. Exactly as expected. She stepped out into the hallway. Hale was already moving toward her. Same pattern. Yeah, Erin said. Still controlled, still subtle. Then they're confident. Too confident. She turned her head slightly. There. The unfamiliar nurse. Closer this time. Moving toward room 12 again. But not directly. She passed the door. Kept walking. Then stopped at the supply junction. Erin's focus locked. Don't move, she said quietly to Hale. He froze. What? She's about to do something. The nurse reached up slightly just under the edge of the wall bracket near the badge reader. Small movement. Quick, precise. Erin stepped forward. Hey. The nurse turned. Too fast. Caught. What are you doing? Erin asked. Checking supplies. Not there. A beat, then the nurse's hand dropped. Too late. Erin had already seen it. A small black device, magnetic, tucked under the bracket. Hale moved in immediately. Don't touch it, Erin said. I wasn't going to. The nurse took a step back. Then another. Calculating, not panicking. That confirmed it. Stay where you are, Hale said. The nurse didn't. She turned. Fast. Down the corridor. Operators reacted instantly. One cut her off at the far end. Another moved in from the side. She didn't fight. Didn't argue. Just stopped. Hands visible. Controlled. That was worse than resistance. Erin stepped closer to the device. Still in place. Still active. Signal relay, she said. Hale nodded. Cloning badge data. Yeah. Erin glanced back toward room 12. They don't need direct access, she said. They just need timing. Hale's eyes narrowed as. And they've got it. The operator secured the nurse, moving her out of the corridor. No scene, no noise, just removal. Erin didn't follow. She stayed where she was, looking at the device, then at the badge reader, then at the flow of people moving past it all day. Every swipe, every entry, every gap, all of it recorded. All of it usable, she said quietly. Hale stepped closer. We've got her. No, Erin said. You've got one. He looked at her. You think there's more? I know there's more. She stepped back. Because this doesn't work with one person. Hale exhaled slowly. Agreed. At that moment, a voice came through his radio. Possible secondary movement. East corridor. Erin didn't wait. She moved. Fast. Down the hallway. Past the station. Past Langford, who looked like he wanted to ask questions, but didn't know where to start. At the east corridor, the door was slightly open. Just enough. Erin pushed through. Empty, but not untouched. The air felt disturbed, like someone had just moved through. She scanned quickly, then saw it. Room 11, door open, window open, 3rd floor, fire escape access. She's out, Erin said. Hale came up behind her. How? Window. He looked down. 3 floors. Manageable. If you knew what you were doing. She had a backup, Erin said. Of course she did. Erin turned back toward the hallway. They're not done. Hale nodded. No. She walked back toward room 12. Faster now. More direct. Inside, Briggs was still on the monitor. Still stable. But Erin didn't look at the screen first. She looked at the IV, then the pump, then the line. Nothing changed. Which meant they already said it, she said quietly. Briggs looked at her. That doesn't sound good. Erin met his eyes. It means we're right on time. She reached for the pump, and this time she didn't wait. Erin tightened her grip on the IV pump and shifted the timing forward without changing the dosage, her eyes already tracking the monitor before her hand moved away. Don't move, she said. Briggs didn't argue this time. He watched her instead. 13:12. Nothing. 13:13. The rhythm dipped. Harder than before. Not controlled. Not clean. Briggs felt it immediately. That's different. Yeah, Erin said. She stepped in closer, checked the line again, then adjusted the bed position slightly. Stay with me. I'm right here. His voice was steady, but the strain was there now. That was new. Erin looked at the pump again. Same rate, same numbers. But the system wasn't driving this anymore. They were. She stepped out into the hallway. Hale. He was already moving. What changed? They lost control of the timing, Erin said. They're compensating. That means they're pushing harder. Hale turned toward the operators. Lock the east corridor. No one moves through without clearance. Copy. The hallway shifted again. Not loud. Not chaotic. Just tighter. More deliberate. Langford stepped forward, finally catching up to what was happening. What is going on in my hospital? Erin didn't even look at him. Your hospital's fine, she said. Your system isn't. He blinked. Excuse me? Hale stepped in front of him. Sir, step back. I am the chief. You are not in this chain, Hale said. Langford stopped. Not because he agreed, because for the first time he realized he didn't have a place in this conversation. Erin was already moving again. Back into room 12. Briggs' monitor showed the shift clearly now. Not dangerous yet, but no longer subtle. They changed the plan, he said. Yeah. That good or bad? Depends how fast they needed it. She checked his pulse again. Still strong, still holding. Stay with me, she said again. I'm not going anywhere. Erin nodded once. Then she did something different. She disconnected the pump, not the line, just the control. Manual, immediate. The system alarmed softly. Nothing loud, nothing that would draw attention outside the room. But inside, everything changed. "You're taking over," Briggs said. "Yeah, feels like that matters." It does. She adjusted the flow manually, watching the monitor respond in real time. 13:14. The rhythm stabilized. Cleaner. Controlled again. But this time, by her. Erin exhaled once. They were relying on automation, she said. Timing inside the system. Briggs gave a small nod. And now it's just me. That simplified things. Outside footsteps moved fast down the corridor. Hale stepped in. "We found the secondary relay." "Where?" "East Corridor Junction. Same setup." Erin nodded. "They built redundancy." "Yeah." Hale glanced at the pump. "You cut them out." "I cut the timing." He studied her for a second. "That was the right call." "I know." She didn't say it like confidence. She said it like fact. At 13:16, one of the operators stepped into the doorway. "Perimeter's clean. No additional contacts." Hale nodded. "Hold positions." The operator stepped back out. Erin kept her focus on the monitor. Numbers steady. Trend reversing. That was what mattered. Briggs looked at her. "You've done this before." She didn't answer. He didn't need her to. At 13:20, the corridor outside settled. Not back to normal, but close enough. Movement resumed. Voices returned. Controlled. Contained. Hale leaned against the doorframe. "That was it," he said. "Yeah. They lost their window." Erin adjusted the flow slightly. "They lost their timing." He nodded. "That too." Langford appeared again, slower this time. Less certain. "Is it over?" he asked. Hale looked at him. "Yes." Langford exhaled, like he'd been holding that breath longer than he realized. "Good," he said. "Then we can—" "No," Erin said. He stopped. "No." She finally looked at him. "You can go back to your meeting," she said. "Well, handle the rest." He didn't argue. Didn't have anything left to argue with. He nodded once and walked away. Erin turned back to the monitor. Steady, clean, real. Not perfect, but real. That was the difference. At 13:25, Hale stepped closer. "Your file's getting reviewed," he said. Erin didn't react. "By who?" "People who should have done it a long time ago." She adjusted the line slightly. "Doesn't change anything here." "No," Hale said. "It doesn't." A pause. "But it might change what comes next." Erin didn't answer that. She didn't need to. Briggs shifted slightly in the bed. "Whatever comes next," he said, "I'm guessing you'll handle it the same way." Erin almost smiled. "Yeah." He nodded once. "Good." At 13:30, the overhead system returned to its normal rhythm. Calls, pages, routine. The hospital reset itself, like it always did, as if nothing had happened. Erin stood there a second longer, watching the monitor. Then she reached over and reconnected the system control. Carefully, deliberately. Now it worked the way it was supposed to. Because someone had made sure of it. Hale stepped back into the hallway. "Dinner," he said, just loud enough for her to hear. Erin didn't look at him right away. She finished adjusting the chart first. Then she turned. "Not the corner table," she said. Hale gave a small nod. "Yeah." That made sense. Outside, the helicopters were already gone. Inside, everything looked exactly the same. Except now, no one on that floor would ever mistake her for just another nurse again. Erin finished her shift the same way she always did. Quiet, precise, no extra attention. The hallway looked exactly like it had that morning. Same lights, same noise, same routine. If you walked in at that moment, you'd never know how close everything came to going the wrong way. That's the thing about hospitals. Most people think the danger is loud. Sirens, chaos, emergency rooms packed wall to wall. But the real risk, it's quiet. It's small decisions, small details, and the people who either notice them or don't. Doctors rely on systems. Nurses rely on instinct. And the best outcomes happen when both are actually paying attention. This story isn't about action or hero moments. It's about awareness. It's about what happens when one person decides not to ignore something that looks fine. Because in real hospital environments, especially in high-pressure situations, things rarely break all at once. They drift. And if no one catches that drift, it becomes the story no one wants to tell. What Erin did wasn't dramatic. She didn't save the day with some big speech or last-second miracle. She just stayed locked in. She trusted what she knew, and she didn't let the system convince her everything was okay when it clearly wasn't. That's what makes stories like this different. Real hospital stories. Real doctors and nurses' stories. The kind where the outcome depends on who's paying attention when it actually matters. If you've ever worked in a hospital or even just spent time in one, you know exactly how true that is. If this kind of story pulled you in, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more coming, stories that stay grounded, real, and focused on the people who don't always get recognized but should.